2 years after Hurricane Ida, the Gates of Oakwood Apartment complex is getting necessary repairs.
But in this Fox 8 Defenders report, Andres Fuentes speaks to tenants who say they are fed up with their long lists of complaints.
The staff at the front desk did not want to directly answer any of my questions that I had about the state of the Gates of Oakwood apartment homes. We've been getting numerous complaints from tenants about the conditions of the apartments, and video was sent to us of one unit flooding with no rapid response from management, according to that tenant.
This is what it's like. I've got this here. That's not doing any good anymore. And now it's coming down from so many places. This is the bulk. I'm trying to catch the bulk of it right here.
A lot of concerns are also about several buildings that are currently tarped over. People I spoke to say crews are slowly repairing damage from Hurricane Ida that left the buildings unstable. That repair job started about a month and a half ago, according to multiple tenants that I spoke to. And residents in some of the units had to be moved out in order to fix the issues, but many say construction has been slow. We spoke to several residents who didn't want to show their faces on camera but are fed up with the issues.
I'm surprised if another hit come over here, it'll be another building that gets issues exposed because of weathering. It feels like I'm just here to pay the property taxes. I'm not an actual loyal, not a loyal, but a valued tenant.
And again, the front office did not want to answer our questions about the construction or other issues at the apartment homes. They said that management would get back to us at a later date. Now, Jefferson Parish Councilman Marion Edwards says that there haven't been any complaints to his office or code enforcement, but he did tell me that he will be keeping a close eye on this property as management tries to make their key repairs. And if we get any updates or comments from the property managers, we'll be sharing that with you both on air and online. But for now, reporting here in Terrytown, Andres Fuentes, Fox 8, Local First.